Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week. And this is a show where I review all the comics I've read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week and everything in between. And before I get started, at the end of the video, we talk about the viewer's pick of the week. So in the comments below, let me know your pick of the week for a chance to be featured. Also be sure to like this video. It brings opportunity to get this video out to other people. Now let's jump in. I have a pretty heavy haul with 14 books. I should also mention next week it's kind of 50-50 if I'll have a video, just because I'll be going to the Las Vegas Licensing Expo, so I'll be out of town, so I don't know if I'll have my reviews or not, but stay tuned. Let's start with number 14, which is Huck. So this is volume 2 of a book that came out 10 years ago, I want to say like a decade ago. So it's been a really long time, and I was really curious to see how this volume was going to tackle things. And the reason this was a little lower for me is because I don't know if they tackled it in the way of this book was released 10 years ago. I'm not saying it wasn't new reader friendly. I think they gave enough information that you'd figure out what's going on in the story, but I don't think it hooks you on the very premise of why Huck was really likable in that first volume, of him being this kind of whimsical, happy-go-lucky version of Superman, and I just didn't really find that here. And honestly, it gave me not enough for the volume to be like, we needed a sequel, or for me to want to pick up that next issue. So that's number 14 for me. Is Green Lantern Corps issue 4. This is one I won't say I'm on the fence for, because I do think it's an important series if you're reading the Green Lantern titles, but I will say it's the one that I am least interested in. I just enjoy Hal's story, and I like more the character-driven solo series, like something like Green Lantern, than the ensemble stories like Green Lantern Corps. I've always been like that anytime they had a title like this, but I think this book does do a good job at tying everything together. I think with this issue in particular, there were a lot of characters trying to be juggled with characters I'm not as interested in, like Teen Lantern. Maybe this book will let me be interested in her, but I'm just not as big of a fan of the newer Lantern characters like that. But it was nice to see Baz, and I think Guy Gardner was in this one as well. So, you know, they're trying to balance all these characters. This issue didn't do it as well for me, and I feel like the plot of the different lanterns, the Sorrow Lantern and all that, I feel like could have been progressed a little bit better, and I think the last issue did a little better job at that. So giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 13. Moving on to number 12, which is Aquaman issue 5. This is a series that's not bad at all. I'm just not a huge Aquaman fan, but I am a big Jeremy Adams fan, which is why I've been kind of sticking around for this. There's something that always hooks me a little bit, and this one ended up being the Mera cliffhanger. I really liked seeing where she's going, and I want to see her story. But the rest of it, the team up with the mermaid character and the adventure they go on, wasn't as interesting to me. But the artwork is strong, and I'm kind of sticking with it. We'll see how long this will stay on my pull list as a non-Aquaman fan. Moving on to number 11, which is Uncanny X-Men issue 14. This arc in particular, I just feel like too much has been going on. There's a lot of plots with them trying to build up the villain, Gambit kind of doing his own thing with the older X-Men, and then the kids going through stuff. And it's so interesting because I feel like there's these two-sided camps for X-Men fans, where some people really like the new kids and some people are just like, I want to see my X-Men. For me, for Uncanny, I've been enjoying the new kids, and that's mostly because I'm not the biggest Rogue and Gambit fan. Like, I'm getting my X-Men more, believe it or not, in Exceptional X-Men. That's just the team I tend to like. It's the Marauder side of the X-Men. So for me, I like learning about these new kids. I like just seeing them grow, and that was probably the moment I liked the most in this issue, including obviously the great artwork by David Marquez. But the 3 different storylines, I just feel like they aren't meshing as well as they should be. But hopefully as the arc goes on, we'll kind of see it all come together. So giving that 3 stars, and that is number 11. Moving on to number 10, our other X-Men book that came out this week, and that is XFactor issue 10, is the last issue for the series, which is why it's kind of in the middle here. You could tell that they had more story to tell. It just didn't happen. You get to see all the toys put back into the toy box. I just wanted a little bit more, but I liked the way it ended. Like, I'm glad that they kind of had this adventure, but you just could tell that there was more to be told. Them tying it into the Doctor Doom stuff as well, it kind of lost a little time for itself. But the art with Bob Quinn is amazing. Really like that. So overall, giving that one 3 stars. Kind of wish I had a little bit more time to breathe. All right, moving on to number 9, which is, honestly, I was like kind of a on whim pick, and that's Spiderverse Venomverse issue 1. I usually don't pick these up. I've had enough, honestly. This has been going on for a decade. Venomverse and 12,000 versions of Venom and Spider-Man. But the reason I picked this up was because A, I kind of want to see if MJ makes an appearance and see if that story continues. B, I know Katie Power is going to show up at some point because she's like a Venom and I'm a big Power Pack fan. But most importantly, C, I really am a big fan of Matt Groom and Kyle Higgins. I like everything they've been doing with Radiant Black, so I'm like, I want to see them write Spider-Man. And they didn't disappoint. I thought the artwork was really solid. I thought the tone of this book was really interesting, where we get to see them go on different sides and kind of want to verse each other, and then you realize they have so much in common. I thought that was really written well. There's times where dialogue really bogs things down, and I don't know if there was like a major hook of like, yes, Venomverse and Spider-Verse should happen and this should be a thing. But I had a fun enough time to recommend the issue and probably pick up issue 2 to see where it goes. So giving that 3 stars, and that is number 9. Moving on to number 8, which is The Golden Rage issue 2, a series I like, but I also don't know if I'll keep on my pull list because I don't know if there's that major hook for me personally, but I think it's a well-written story about these older women who find this baby and react to finding this baby, and one character in particular having a strong connection to the child. And I like it. I think that's an interesting story, but with so many comics coming out, I'm like, but what's making me stick around for that issue 3? I don't know. And I didn't read the previous volume either, so that's a little harder. I don't know these characters as well. I didn't even know there was a previous volume. So, but that actually shows that this is pretty new reader friendly too. So we'll see what type of week it is next week, or next month, because, you know, when you have those like 14, 15 books, sometimes you gotta make some cuts because there's newer titles that come out as well. So giving that one 3 stars, and that is number 8. Moving on to number 7, the topic of the video, and that is Invincible Universe Battle Beast issue 1. Now, what I did here is that I did buy 3 blind bags, so I'm gonna show you guys the blind bags, and what I did was cut a little bit, as one falls, I cut a little bit in the back, that way I can open them easily, but I don't know what's in them, and I want to talk about the blind bag aspect, and then we'll talk about the book itself. So let's open up the blind bag. So here's my first one I got going on. And just to let you guys know, if you don't know, a lot of them have cover A's, some of them have variant covers, and then others have the gold version, a sketch cover. I know there's like Marvel Team Up in some of these, so there's all like different versions that you can get. So let's see what this one is. There seems to be a gold back. I think this is just a variant cover. You guys are gonna have to also let me know. Yeah, this is a cover B. This is the David Finch cover. That's just a variant, so I don't think that's anything special, but still cool to get that David Finch cover. And so far I haven't gotten just the cover A, so that's good, which we'll see. Maybe we'll get a cover A for the next one. All right, let's get into the next one. We have another gold back. I'm guessing, let me see if cover A is gold. Yeah, they're all gold, so I don't think they're telling you that much. Okay, so the next one is here. Another David Finch cover. I have a feeling this third one's going to be David Finch as well, but we'll see. Maybe I should have mixed them up a little bit more when I was at the store. I'm just like, oh, give me 3 blind bags. All right, let's see. Let's guess. David Finch? Cover A. I'll say I didn't have the biggest haul on that one, but let's talk about the concept of that. Is it a fun concept? Yeah, I mean, it's also just the same price as the regular cover, so it's pretty easy just to be like, give me like 3 of them and let's have some fun. And I like the idea that you have a chance at random Marvel team up book or some special covers. I like it because again, you have these poly bags usually, and it's just like, oh, it's a collector's item, just don't open it, and that's the point. And then later years you learn that you should have opened it, and you have all these things, the poly bag. So I like that they're redoing the poly bag, making it more of a mystery and just having fun. You know, it's cool for everyone to kind of come into the stores like, you're getting your mystery bags. That's cool. So it just brings some conversation. So the question is it a gimmick or is is it fun? I'll say a little bit of both, but I think that's what's fun about comics. You need a little gimmick to sell the comic, and I think you need to have a good mixture, and I believe that this one is more fun than gimmick, unlike, you know, something, let's say Red Band, where that felt a little bit more gimmicky because it's just, you weren't even getting the aspect of Red Band. There's other regular Marvel titles that were a little gorier. So I feel like that's something a little bit more lined into what's a gimmick in comics. Now, speaking on the comic itself, so let's talk about Battle Beast. Was that a gimmick? And that's a harder one to say, because I'll say I'm not following the Invincible show. I've read all the Invincible comics, but I read most of them when they were coming out. So I don't remember every story arc that came out, but I read them, you know, a decade ago. And this character in particular, I know, became very popular because of the show. And I love the idea, and obviously it's pretty high on my list. I love the idea of Ryan Ottley returning. I love that Robert Kirkman are returning. And I like the action a lot here. I think it's a really fun, bombastic series in that regard, and reminds you why you liked Invincible in the first place. But it's also a side of Invincible that I never cared about as much. The space adventure and the alien race was never my favorite part of Invincible. My favorite part was the bend on superheroes, especially like, you have books like Radiant Black and things like that now, but Invincible paved that way for those books to exist, to have a superhero book that was outside of Marvel and DC that could kind of do anything and see a character truly grow up. And I love that aspect of Invincible. You don't get that here. Obviously, it is more leaning just on the bloody side of things. And it does feel very lost episode. I don't know if this issue really particularly said, hey, you need to pick this up to learn this about this character. So in that regard, yeah, this is a little bit more gimmicky as an event, but am I having a fun time with it? Yeah, and I'd probably pick up the second issue to see where it goes, and I hope these sales mean we could get other spin-off series of other characters from the Invincible Universe and kind of expand that. So giving that one 3 stars, and that is number 7. Moving on to number 6. And that is Gwenpool issue 1. Also, speaking of gimmicks, this is a weird series because I actually think I would have given this so much higher if I didn't know the cliffhanger. And we've talked about like spoilers in comics in the past, but that's kind of how I felt here, because most of it's actually just a Gwenpool issue. It really is Gwenpool. It's her breaking the fourth wall. You get a little West Coast Avengers, the older West Coast Avengers, or the newer / older West Coast Avengers with Jeff and Kate Bishop. You get a little Spider-Man in here, and then you get this menacing character, which was honestly an interesting contrast with kind of the fun-loving Gwenpool who's breaking that fourth wall with this character who's just really vengeful. And then in the end, you find out that's the real Gwen Stacy. And I was like, oh, that's a really, really cool twist. I want to know what happens in issue 2, but damn, I wish that wasn't spoiled, because that would have been like my pick of the week if I didn't know that Gwen Stacy was coming back, and then you have that big reveal and everyone gets to talk about it. But now it's just kind of old news. So it's a weird comic in that way, because I actually did enjoy it. It just, the spoiler aspect of it all. So giving that one 3.5 stars, and that is number 5. Oh, that was number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is Absolute Batman issue 8. I liked this more than the last issue. I think it did a better job with the gruesomeness and the harrowingness of Mr. Freeze. And I liked how they connected it to the trauma of Batman and him feeling like this lone survivor with his dad's shooting. And then you get another character who also was this lone survivor and him dealing with that guilt. And I liked how that all kind of tied together. I thought this was a little bit more creepy than the last issue, and I just thought the character drivenness was stronger in this one. So overall, giving that one 3.5 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Exquisite Corpses, issue 1. This is a new James Tynion book, and I liked it. I thought this is an interesting concept of, I don't know if you guys have ever played No More Heroes, the video game. It reminded me a lot of that. And then a mixture of like your battle royales and Hunger Games. It was kind of more of a modern take on how people are perceived in the world, and the rich and people who control power, and these families who put on this game, pretty much very Hunger Games, to control the world for a year. And you know, if you've ever read any of other James Tynion books, it lines with a lot of the storytelling he tells, especially in something like, you know, Nice House on the Lake, or the Department of Truth especially reminds me a lot of that. So I enjoyed the concept a lot, but honestly the thing that hooked me a bit more was that single mom, it seems like, and the two kids or young adults that are taking care of this kid is all on Halloween. Like, I was more attracted to the character stories than, this bigger, larger than life story. But that's what makes it a great horror story, because, your Halloweens and your Nightmare on Elm Streets, it's always this kind of larger than life character like Michael or Freddy Krueger, and then it's the thing that really brings you to the table is the final girl. It's the human stories, or you just want to see kind of the kills and how that's going to work out. So I think it was a good blueprint to something really exciting and new, and it just has kind of James Tynion written all over it. So if you usually like his writing, I think this is him at its best, and I'm interested to see where it's going to go. So giving that 4 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is Phantom Road, issue 12. This is a book that I feel like is very under the radar. It's Jeff Lemire at his best, where, usually I don't like when stories kind of go on its own course and stays away from the main characters. But I think this arc has done a good job at connecting it in the way that this is the father of the detective that's been following them. But also, while you're telling the story, it's not this kind of random story of the detective's father. It's also telling you a little bit more about this world and opening up the mystery a little bit more, which is why I think this issue works so well, and this arc has been working very well. So overall, giving that one 4 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2, which is Supergirl issue 1. I was very excited for this. I love Supergirl, and I love how different she is in a lot of volumes, and when you track her history, it's a very interesting history, because also she died for such a long time, and the way they've reinvented this character a lot, and that she's a character that has been around for a very long time, but she has very specific volumes. I think with Superman, there's like just 20 volumes, and some of them feel very similar. I think Supergirl, you have the Peter David run that's really, really different than her return to in the New 52, or when she returned from her death, and that's kind of what I like about her character. Speaking of, what I enjoyed about this issue is that it's such a love letter to her time in the Silver Age, but also kind of ties a little bit together to the TV show, which the TV show obviously takes a lot from all different sides of the Supergirl spectrum. And I like just kind of going back and her going to Midvale and having this really, really topsy-turvy Silver Age storyline where there's another Supergirl. What do you do? Everyone doesn't know you. And it feels like you're transported back in time and into those old comics. And if you guys don't know, I got into comics because my dad used to read Silver Age Superman and Supergirl to me. Even though I'm a bigger Marvel fan these days, and just growing up with like Spider-Man, that is how I was raised with those books. So it was cool to kind of go back to that and feel new enough, but also kind of going back to that time. So overall, giving that 4 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to number 1. I Was a Fashion School Serial Killer issue 2. I'm just having a fun time with this one. It's this girl who's a serial killer who's never had friends before, and now she does. And this girl who's just been really trying hard to keep this friendship with our main character is now getting hurt. And she's like, well, I'm gonna kill these people. And it's just a really fun series and an out-of-the-box concept, but with something we're all familiar with. It's a horror story, it's a serial killer story, and it just kind of works. I like the fashion school kind of dressing on it as well. It's just, again, a kind of topsy-turvy idea that works because it has such, storytelling that we've all know and love, like the slasher story. So giving that 4.5 stars, that is my pick of the week. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite book of the week was. This is Comic Uno, and last week's pick of the week was Jump Scare, and here are some comments about that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.